Hello and welcome to episode number 13 of Shockwaves. I'm your host, Rob Galluzzo. Sitting with me is my co-host.
For a lucky 13.
My only co-host today, Mr. Ryan Turek. What's up, man?
I loved coming back on so much that I picked off our other guests, our other co-hosts.
You've taken them out.
Yeah, I took them out. Elric came down with the flu.
And we didn't want him here.
I sent Becca to the East Coast.
Yes. So both, you got rid of them pretty easily.
Yeah. It didn't take much convincing.
I love their devotion to our show.
I just want to just preface this episode by saying that, as usual, we're recording here at Blumhouse. And down the hall, we've got a very special screening of one of our upcoming movies.
Oh.
And Blum is hosting the screening, and we've got the interns and the assistants, and everybody's checking it out, some of them for the first time. So if you hear any thumping or background noise or
if I disappear, it's because I went to go watch the movie.
That's true, yeah. Just know we got a busy office here tonight. So
all right, fair enough. Obviously, we'll do what we always do, which is talk about stuff that we've seen in the last week, and then we will queue it up for our very special guests. I'm actually kind of nervous about what kind of chemical reaction will happen putting these two women together in a room with us.
A lot of history with these two.
A lot of history between the two of us and these two. Yeah. So that should be fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But before that, let's talk about a few things that are going on in the horror world.
Yeah.
I was just telling you a couple seconds before we went online. I don't really talk much about Kickstarter stuff or crowdfunding because it's just really difficult because there's just so much of it out there that it's kind of hard to keep track and figure out where you want to invest your money and what you want to kind of back and get behind. However, this is one that I feel I should bring to the attention of our listeners who are big horror fans. And for the most part, I know everyone really has a great affinity for the effects artists, as I do. And in fact, we talked about this one last week. Steve Johnson, legendary effects artist. When we mentioned him last week because he used to do a segment called Scare Tactics as part of the Horror Hall of Fame with Linnea Quigley, who at the time was his wife. And he's worked on so many things, Ghostbusters and Fright Night. And
Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Blade 2.
Yeah.
And for years, he has been working on a kind of like a tell-all bio book called Rubberhead. And I had actually read a couple of years ago a very rough version, like the first one of the earliest drafts of this as a full book. And I thought it was really kind of crazy. It was like a fear and loathing style narrative of what it was like to weave in and out of each of these movies, including, working with James Cameron on The Abyss and big crazy projects like that. So anyway, Steve has now decided to go to Kickstarter for this project. And he's got a campaign running now with Sandy Calora is kind of running it for him, who is most well known for the Batman Dead End short. And I think it looks super cool. I mean, to me, the only thing about Kickstarter is all I want in the bare minimum is I want the final product. So if you're making a movie and I contribute $30, I just want the DVD or Blu-ray of it.
Yeah.
So for him, he's making a beautiful hardcover book, kind of detailing with lots of photos and cool stuff regarding his history in the effects world. And again, if you've seen him pop up in some of these Scream Factory releases, he has no problem being very candid.
Yeah.
So,
it's just I think that there needs to be like some tone setting because some of the younger listeners out there don't understand that the world of 80s horror, worked hand in hand, kind of like like the 80s hair metal days. I mean, like. In the horror scene, the special effects guys were kings.
Yeah, I mean, they were rock stars.
They were rock stars. They were good-looking dudes.
Right.
They were good-looking guys who were getting their hands dirty in the effects world, and they were just doing some amazing stuff, And I, you've got the K&B boys coming up. You got Steve Johnson. You got Tony Gardner.
Yeah.
And Rob Bottin.
Oh yeah.
And these guys were rock stars of that very specific world. And I think that this book is going to be I can understand why it's going to Kickstarter. It's a very specific book for a very niche audience. But I think it's great. I can't wait to hear like some of the stories that come out of this. You know, I mean, when you're an effects artist, you're there on the front lines with the filmmaker and the producers. Yeah. You know, feeling the pressure of a tight schedule and of a tight budget, and you know, you're there working hand in hand with these people, so you get all the dirt. You know, which is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it. You can. You know, you could put it on. You could check on YouTube. But for a little while there, Steve was actually. I think you could probably search like Steve Johnson effects, but he was actually doing these little video segments from his archives because all these guys videotaped everything on VHS. Yeah. So you can go on YouTube and like do Steve Johnson Ghostbusters or Steve Johnson Superman Lives. Yeah. And they're like, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes long each, but it's very candid versions of him telling some of these quickie stories about like making like the Superman regenerator suit or, you know, working on Fright Night and how he did this effect and stuff. So if that's any indication, I mean, he's kind of like he very much acts like and looks like Tony Stark. So he's like the Tony Stark of the effects world. Yeah. So if you know, that's the type of personality we're dealing with. And I think, you know, his book's going to be really cool.
What do you say is like Tony Stark mixed with Howard Stern?
Sure. Yes, that's very accurate.
You know,
Steve,
very
we love
vocal.
You. I know you're not listening, but I love you. So I hope you know that I mean that with a lot of
love.
No,
it all comes out of total respect. I mean, like, you know, if you're...
He married Linnea Quigley, okay?
Absolutely. Married Linnea Quigley.
Respect.
Rock star of the effects world. Someone who isn't afraid to speak their mind, but also backs it up with immense creativity. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, you know, and I'm curious to see this book. I hope it reaches its goal. If it doesn't, you know, I'm sure he'll find out some other way.
Yeah,
there are so many great book publishers out there. Titan, Fab Press. You know, I feel like those would be companies that he can go to.
Go to with this, yeah.
But when you go to Kickstarter as well, you want some level of control.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it's all about.
Sure. Well, check that out. It's called Rubberhead, Sex, Drugs, and Special Effects. Yeah. So that's my first thing. And then I had to bring this to your attention because I know how big a fan you are of Fulci and Zombie and all that stuff. I have them right here handy. There's a new comic book for Lucio Fulci's Zombie. And this is from, I hope I pronounce it right, Eibon is the magazine company, Eibon, but then it's
which is like the book of Eibon from the world of...
there you go. You got it. You know the reference. Yeah. Yes. I'm looking where? Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Justin. So this is the first issue of the comic book so far. And I really like it. There's a fun little note in the inside explaining why it's in this prestige format. It kind of looks like a little hardcover book, but then you open it up because the prestige books were always a pain in the ass to read. Right. So then it comes with the comic in the inside.
It's like a sleeve for the comic.
Yeah. So a sleeve for the comic. Yeah. It's really cool. Steven Romano, who has done a lot of comics. He did what's the name of that book he did? Do you remember? He did like a whole book about fictional poster covers.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
But he's the writer behind this, and this is the first issue, which has got some great artwork. It's kind of like a retelling of the movie Zombie, but it's done from like with narration. It's almost done like a film noir,
right?
You know, like from that perspective. The thing you're holding in your hand, the book of Eibon, is actually something that I believe came, Dread Central does this monthly.
Our friends Dread Central presents.
Yeah, it's from one of their, every month they do a box of Dread.
Right.
Where you pay a certain amount of money, you get a bunch of cool stuff in there. Yeah. So that was an exclusive made specifically for the box of Dread, which is kind of like a little prequel comic book that leads up to this zombie issue.
The artist looks really familiar.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I think it's super cool.
And Mike Broom. Okay, yeah. Broom has done Broom,
He's done a lot of production art,
horror stuff. Yeah.
I know he's worked with Dave Parker a lot. I think he designed like the original Babyface design and stuff like that. Really interesting, talented guy, and he does the art for these.
Yeah, these are fun.
Yeah, I mean I know that you're a comic book
Where can
fan.
you get this?
You know what? That's the cool thing is you can buy them directly from them on their website. Because they're super limited. If you're lazy, you're out of luck, my friend. You have to go to EibonPress.com.
Yeah.
because they're limited to, I can't remember the number, but they're super limited.
Oh, cool.
Like, I think they only made, I want to say like 750 copies or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, and some of them are limited and signed and all that. But
nice.
I got a copy early, and I think it's super cool, and everyone should check those out.
What's the release date? What's the street date?
I think it's out now.
Oh, okay.
I think you can go to the website and check it out now.
Excellent.
So that's that.
Nice.
What did you want to talk about before we talk about movies?
I want to talk about my fixation on board games recently.
Board games? Where'd this come from?
I don't know. I have
bought
no
that
idea.
weird one, right? What's
I
it
bought,
called?
Crap. What I wanted to talk about was Mixtape Massacre.
That's it. That's the one you bought and told me about.
That's the one that is basically you play one of a handful of slashers that are all cut from the horror movie pantheon claw. It's like,
is it the real ones or is it like skewed?
No,
very,
skewed.
Like,
there's like the creepy, the creepy janitor guy who's got like knives for fingers, and then there's like the hell demon.
Right.
There's kind of a adjacent offshoot.
So they put like a cabin in the woods, but board game.
Totally. And imagine if all of those characters were able to break out of their glass cells in Cabin in the Woods and descend on a small town.
Nice.
And then basically what you do is you play as one of these slashers, and you're all trying to outkill each other, outkill.
How does
and
the
try to rack
mixtape
up the
thing
biggest
fit in?
Well, it's got
or is it just a clever name?
It's just a clever name. It has a kind of an 80s pastiche to it, all the characters in it have kind of an 80s vibe. They even have if you buy Mixtape Massacre from the board game publisher, you get a Spotify playlist, so you could play along to their kind of 80s hits.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And so, there's just like that between that and then Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is a much more complicated horror board game, which allows you to play with a group of people, and then one person becomes the kind of like the adversary, but you don't know until a little later in the game, but then they have to work against you, and you have to work with your other players to kill him. There's that, but there's a new one on the way that a buddy of mine over at Indiegogo was telling me about that is called The Last Friday, and it's pure like Friday the 13th kind of knockoff board game, like pure Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing, where you're a counselor at a camp and you've got this giant board that's basically the campgrounds and the tents and the lake, and then there's this kind of like backdrop you could put alongside it. Anyways, they sold it at they sold a couple copies at Comic-Con, and it sold out immediately. Like people just snatched it up, and it's coming out from what I saw this September, October. But there's just like a new, I don't know, man. It's like as I get older, things I loved as a kid. Obviously, it's like there's nothing new. Everything old is new again. Everything's cool. Vinyl, board games, VHS. They never go away. But there's just something fun to it, and one of these nights we got to get you over for a board game night. It's so much fun because.
Let me ask you: do you remember the Nightmare on Elm Street board game?
I barely remember.
All right, because I had
barely remember.
I defy anyone out there to tell me how to play that stupid game because it's like the most complicated board game in history. It's like I give up. It looks cool, but whatever.
Yeah, I want to find that.
There's an Evil Dead 2 one coming out too.
There is an Evil Dead 2.
Was also crowdfunded.
Yeah.
So,
and that one you can get like wooden dice that have like the little like symbols on them and stuff like that. The Kandarian demon symbols and whatnot. And I don't know. It's a cool added fixture to the horror fandom that I've like fallen into since I was a kid. It's just like when you were a kid, you played what is the VHS night board game Nightmare or something like that.
Yeah, I saw somebody post that today.
Yeah. So there's
I never played those. I don't understand the VHS board game,
dude.
Although I like Jackson's movie about it. Beyond the Gates.
Beyond the Gates. Yeah, the funny thing about that game is it's great for like a one-time thing.
Right.
Being like 13 years old, my sister probably being 10 or 11, my parents got that game for me, and we all sat around the kitchen table, popped in the VHS, and then we like played it, and then my dad's like, "Who's this guy? What? Wait, do I go? No, wait." And then like the Crypt Keeper that's on the TV is like, "Don't go yet," like roll the dice, and you're like listening to this. And as a 13-year-old, you kind of get bored real fast because you're just like, I just want to go. I want to play. anyways, that was fun, but it's just like kind of taking that love of the kind of spooky board games you play, like I Want to Bite Your Finger, which was a giant plastic Dracula that you erected over a board game, and you would move pieces around the board and then reach into his finger, and it would be on a weird timer. So you would put your finger in and hope he doesn't bite you on that turn. But if he does, like this little plastic clamp comes down on your finger, and then you're bitten. I bought that once. I bought it as like as a symbol of love for somebody. But and then it got thrown away. Anyways, there's this weird horror board game thing, kind of like. Coming back around this, and it's cool. You guys should definitely check it out there. And then somebody told me there was a Big Trouble in Little China board game that's coming out, and they had it at Comic-Con, sold out immediately, and it's like on its way this fall, I think.
Isn't it weird that all these little things that like were not successful? They were Big Trouble meant a lot to me growing up, but now there's like a board game that sells out. Who'd have thought?
No, so weird.
It's crazy.
So weird. But anyways, that was kind of like the tangential thing I wanted to kind of go on with this episode, was to talk about the board game love recently.
Cool.
So definitely take a look. Mixtape Massacre, Betrayal at House on the Hill, and Last Friday, which is coming out soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
All righty. A lot of movies. I saw a lot of stuff this week.
Yeah, same.
Technically, I'm on vacation now, although I'm at the office.
There are no vacations.
There's no vacations in this world. Exactly. So first of all, I want to talk about Clown, because I just picked this up.
Yeah. Apropos week to talk about Clown, Rob.
We did. Produced by Eli Roth. Although this started out as a teaser trailer. This is actually a great story. Yeah. Jonathan Watts, the director, made a kind of like a fake Grindhouse teaser style version of this.
Right.
And said on it, like, from Eli Roth. Eli saw it, thought it was great, and they ended up making it into an actual movie. Now, the funny thing is, obviously, they made it a couple of years ago. It's been kind of on the shelves for a while. It came out on DVD in Europe, and it's just coming out on DVD, I believe, I think it's the August 23rd, Tuesday?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, it's coming really soon, just so you know.
Yeah.
But I finally got to check it out. I actually really, really liked it. And I thought initially, because here's the thing, like I really tried to think about creepy clown movies.
Sure.
And obviously I think of It, that's just one element of it. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is more of a, kind of more of a sci-fi crazy cult movie. But I can't really think of a genuine clown horror movie that's not like based on like Gacy or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, the intriguing part is like, all right, how are they going to stretch this trailer out into a feature-length movie? And I actually really dug it because it kind of kicks off right away with this guy who, ends up dressing up as a clown for his kid's birthday party because the actual clown canceled. He's a realtor. He's selling a place. He finds it in the basement. It's like, screw it. I'll do it. Which, if you have kids, you know that this is what you have to do. And then immediately he can't take it off after that party. And from there, because then you're like, where is this going? Are they stretching this out? But what I really liked is that they actually built a really cool mythology around what he's turning into.
Like tying into like the deep jester roots.
And like where the whole clown thing came from. Like maybe it's this demon that used to eat children. Right. And quite frankly, when you put children in peril, I'm kind of like, all right, this is my kind of horror, I guess.
And there's some good children in peril.
Oh,
yeah.
There's
some good stuff.
He wants to eat kids. That's what it comes down to. And there's no way around it. And what I liked is there's some morally questionable decisions that some of the characters make. And that's what I like in my horror is I want you to be like, I don't know, maybe I would give up a kid if it would get me out of this situation, So I really dug this. I thought it was cool. And what I like is, John Watts went on to do Cop Car. And right now he's directing the new freaking Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
So, and you know what? Stylistically, he's a good director. Like, even though this is his debut,
Then Cop Car, are good, confident, two good, confident movies. And you could see why Kevin Feige, left us the chance to get him on one of the Marvel movies.
Sure.
I wasn't as thrilled with Clown as you were. I thought it was a cool idea. It's just always about those kind of like kitschy ideas. It's like, how can you sustain it for an hour and a half?
Yeah.
I don't think that they handled it quite as well as you. I mean, as well as you think they did. I mean, like It was just kind of like it felt one note to me. That's what it was. But I love the idea, and I love that the guy threw himself into it, and I love the creativity and the design work of the clowns. Like there's that one bit of the interrogation footage or the security camera footage where you see the transformation.
Sure.
But I need to do a rewatch just because I saw it a while ago.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I feel the same way sometimes, especially with modern new horror, where I feel like, is there enough here to justify the 90-minute running time, or is it a really great idea for short? But I also try to think of the movies we grew up on, because a lot of them are the same thing. And by the end of it, there was enough of a cool mythology and backstory that I was like, you know what, that warranted the full movie. You know, that's why.
You mentioned clown movies, Stitches.
Oh, I love Stitches. Stitches is great. That's more of a horror comedy, though. No, right?
Well, I think this is kind of a little bit
somewhat, but he's eating children.
It's mean-spirited. It's a mean-spirited movie. Yeah.
Right. But no, Stitches is really good too.
Yeah.
Also, I think you might have revisited this too, but I just got Session 9 from Scream Factory. Yeah. I have not seen this movie since it came out. And I had very vague memories of it because it was VHS at the time, one of the first like shot on digital movies. And I remember it. You know what? I've put this under the, I don't have a word for it, but I put it under the Fezzidan banner, which is that type of horror that's a little more on the psychological side where you don't really see creatures or things like that. So I remember I liked it when it came out, but I didn't remember much about it. However, watching this Blu-ray, I loved it. Like loved it this time.
It's
because of the mood. It's a moody piece.
Yeah.
And really kind of, it's these guys are, bidding. These guys are desperate to get a job to bid to like kind of fix up this decrepit former insane asylum or whatever it is. Right. And it's just four guys.
Well, they're taking the asbestos out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is real. Like, obviously, one of them finds a bunch of tapes from one of the former patients that was there and starts listening to it, and that's like really creepy. And then they start kind of like
another one finds like the furnace with all of the stuff, the gold and the rings and all the leftovers from people who've been burned up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got David Caruso, you got Josh Lucas, a lot, really good cast. Brad Anderson, his first movie, who I think is a really solid filmmaker as well. But revisiting it, I think it was just the idea of watching it late at night, all the lights out, sound up, and really being swept away by the mood and atmosphere that this movie kind of evokes. Because it's not an easy pill to swallow, because if you're the type of horror fan that just wants gore and action, whatever to happen, this is not for you. But if you like kind of that slow pace, actually, I read a really great article earlier today on Birth, Movies, Death by Brian Collins, who really... I know it's a bold statement, but was comparing it to The Shining, essentially, like saying like this is kind of like a modern version of The Shining, where it's people slowly, I don't mean to give away too much, but it's the idea of kind of descending into madness, just based on your location. Yeah, and I thought that was a really solid point.
And also living with guilt.
Yes.
And living with, a small town, and living with the burden of being a family man, and living with all sorts of, it's all personal demon kind of stuff, I remember seeing Session 9, Jared Rivet, who is a listener, and also now the co-host over at Dead Right Horror Trivia, he and I saw it opening night.
Oh, wow.
At the Sunset 5.
Mm-hmm. You were two very few people that saw it.
Yeah. We saw it. Oh, no, you know what? I don't know if it was Sunset 5. I think it might have been, it's either Sunset 5 or it was the Burbank 8 or whatever was in the mall. And I was so mad. I hated this movie. I hated the experience.
But what was going on? This is 2001,
This is 2001.
So what's going on in horror then?
Like horror, then you had... God, we were still caught in the kind of like wake of Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, the movie. Scream era, Valentine.
Good stuff.
There was like horror was still trying to find its thing. There was no 28 Days Later. There was no The Ring. There was nothing like that was going to push the genre forward. So you had these kind of smaller movies making waves. You had Ginger Snaps. You had Session 9, But my patience just didn't handle it. Like I was just out. So at the end... I got up and I was like, "Fuck you!" and I flipped off the screen.
Wow!
And then I walked out and I left Jared and our buddy Hobie behind. And I sat in the lobby and I just stewed. I was so mad.
Wow!
And I was thinking about getting my money back. I was just pissed. So
you
cut
hear
to,
that, Brad Anderson, listener of the show?
Yeah. Cut to 4 years later. It's Halloween, and I'm living in Michigan, and I'm like kind of collecting some movies to watch. And I saw Session 9. I was like, I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch Don't Look Now. I'm gonna watch another kind of classy, slow burn horror movie. I'm gonna give Session 9 another chance because Jovanka Vukovic over at Rue Morgue was playing it up so much. And she was like, Ryan, you need to see it again. So I watched it, and I was like seeing it with new eyes. Like I had no, like Ryan 3 years later, I have no idea what had changed, but I fell in love with it. And I recently had I hold these like little private screenings here at Blumhouse for our directors and staff and stuff like that, and show 'em movies. And there was one director in particular that we're working with, and I thought Session 9 would be a good thing for him to see to kind of get the wheels, greased and going. And
did that happen, that screening?
It did.
Oh, damn! I wanted to go.
Yeah. No, there was a point where I canceled it, and I was just like, "Come on, man, let's just do this."
Right.
And we watched it.
You didn't have the Blu-ray. Screw you guys.
Well, we wound up watching it on DVD, unfortunately, because that's what was available. I hadn't gotten my Scream Factory one yet, but watching it again, I think it holds up. Like 15 years later, it still holds up. It's so good.
I thought it was more effective now than I'd ever thought it could be.
You know what's amazing about it is the sound design.
Yeah,
the sound design is what holds it for me. I mean, in addition to like the character drama and the kind of inner demons that are being exercised through these characters, it's the sound design of the recordings themselves. When Gordon is hearing, that kind of hello, Gordon, it's just like it sends a shiver down your spine. It's really solid. Sound design in general, I think, is the principal character of Session 9.
Yeah.
I think it's a threat. It's its own threat to the characters and of the movie. It's like something to be feared because, right down to this weird little bird whistle you keep hearing over and over, and it's just like, shut up! I don't want to hear you anymore, bird. It's a solid movie, and like I genuinely think like of the post 2000 movies, it's a classic.
Yeah,
like, you gotta check it out.
My favorite thing about this that I remember is in the MySpace days was like one of the first GIFs ever is that amazing shot that zooms in on Caruso where he's like fuck you.
There were a couple.
That's like the greatest.
There were a couple of people that had come into the screen here, and I just heard them laughing in the background.
Yeah, I recognize that. That's shared all the time. That's amazing.
So funny. So funny.
What movies have you seen? Because I want to go back and forth. But I got one more thing I want to talk about, but I want to hear what you've seen.
So over the weekend at Next Fest, Next Fest being kind of a part of Sundance, and what I realized what Next Fest is, it's kind of like the films that are deserving a little bit more attention that played at Sundance in January, and so they showed Babak Anvari's Under the Shadow, which is going to come to Netflix, and XYZ is one of the primary producers of it, along with Wigwam Films, and Under the Shadow is this it's Israeli horror film spoken in Farsi, and it's about a woman whose husband is a doctor and is sent off to the front lines because it's during the 80s, during the Iran-Iraq war. And she fears the war. When he comes home, he's like, I gotta go. They're enlisting me again. I have to go back out there. And she's like, well, maybe it'll be like probably a safe zone. He comes home and he's like, no, I'm actually like going into the worst region possible. And she's like, okay, so I guess I'll take care of the kid. So it's her and her daughter. And during that time, Iraq was just like bombing. Like you didn't even know when they were going to start lobbing missiles. And one day they hear the air raid siren and they run down into the basement. When they come back up, there's a missile literally lodged through the roof of their apartment complex, and it hadn't detonated, obviously. And so they get it out. The government pulls it out, and from there, some supernatural events start to happen, and you don't know what it is. Is it jinn? Is it just it all in her head because she's kind of not handling the stress of being a mom with a daughter and dealing with all of the threat of violence and all this other stuff. And I saw it at Sundance, and it was the first horror movie in a while that it featured one scare scene that made me jump. Like I literally jumped.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And obviously seeing it again, I saw it with my girlfriend, and she was just writhing in her in her seat. She couldn't handle it. As were like most of the audience. And the third act is high intensity.
Yeah.
But it is a really confident, really good, solid debut from Babak. He did a great job.
Wow.
Really, really cool stuff. And what was great is following the screening, Simon Barrett, the writer of Your Next, Blair Witch, upcoming Blair Witch, he did a Q&A with Babak, the lead actress, and John Landis.
Landis, what's he doing there?
And so Landis's connection as Babak was he looked up to Landis. He loved Landis as a filmmaker. And if you go to Blumhouse.com, you'll see that if you run a search, Babak wrote like a little essay about Landis, why he liked Landis so much. Yeah. And he wanted to get the Thriller music video for a scene in Under the Shadow, but he couldn't get it. So it was weird. It was a fun, frivolous, kind of fluffy Q&A. Landis dropped a lot of dad jokes and a lot of old Hollywood director jokes that some fell flat, some went really great. There was a Police Academy 5 joke that just went over audience's head, and I
would have gotten it.
Yeah, no, there was a select few of us that were like, "Oh yeah, you rascal, John Landis." But it's a solid movie. It's coming out, I believe, this October. So
cool. So it's on the festival circuit now, and
it was on the festival circuit, and now it's like hitting the home stretch where it's going to go into release. So
cool.
Yeah,
right on. Let's see. The last thing I want to talk about, and then according, I guess John has us, Humphrey, our social media guy, has us live right now on Blumhouse's Facebook.
Elric Kane is talking to people.
Elric Kane is jumping in.
Elric Kane.
He was too sick to show up, but he has no problem jumping on the internet.
Tea, put a little honey in it for me. Throw a little lemon in there. Take care of yourself.
What can we talk about to infuriate Elric while he watches this?
He actually asked what your first horror was.
What?
He was asking your first horror movie?
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, haven't we? No. Yeah, because he actually asked this on the Shockwaves Twitter today. He was asking people to tell us what their first horror movie was. Like the one that got them into the genre. For me, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. For him, it was Creepshow.
Do you remember
your first?
Yeah, I think it was like Fright Night.
Fright Night.
Yeah.
And you saw that theatrically with your dad?
I saw that opening night in 85.
Wow.
Yeah.
August. No wonder you have such an affinity for that movie.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
No. My whole you guys might have heard this, but my whole experience is I grew up in Wallingford, Connecticut, very small town in Connecticut, and my grandmother lived just a couple of houses down, and the night of the Fright Night opening, my dad and my grandmother were going to go check it out, because they would go see movies and whatever and hang out and whatever. And so he was like, "All right, kid, you want to come see the scary movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, Fright Night." And we were driving through the middle of town, and he pulls over in front of the post office, and he's like, the post office was like a kind of like a marker for my walk from home to elementary school. And like we would walk like a mile each way in the snow. And and so he knew that if he dropped me off at the post office, I could walk back. And he goes, "This is gonna be scary." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's gonna be really scary." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "If you can't handle it, get out of the car." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "You can walk home. We got to make a movie." And I was like, No. I'm going to see this scary movie. So I like folded my arms in the back seat and I was like, "Drive." So they took me to Fright Night. And that was the first movie that, one, made me jump. Two, made me realize that horror movies can be really funny too. And balance and just speak to the youthfulness of what my adolescence. Evil Ed was like, I want to be Evil Ed when I grow up. I kind of am and am not. You take away the weirdness. He was the misfit.
Right.
But Charlie Brewster was the cool kid who was making out with a man of beers.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to be both of those. How do I be both? But no, that was the one movie that got me into horror movies. And then since then, we just celebrated the 30th anniversary of The Fly.
Yeah.
And I have fond memories of seeing that opening night. And, I think Aliens was another touchstone kind of theatrical release movie that really got me, hooked on horror. And and then everything else is history.
What did Elric say on the interwebs?
He said it's no Fright Night too.
Dude, he
also called you a punk, apparently.
Yeah,
I can see from the speed.
They want an idiot.
They want to know what y'all's favorite Blumhouse flicks are.
Really? Okay. Yeah, sure.
They asked Eric, and he's asking you.
Do you have a question? Do you have an answer for this? The favorite Blumhouse movie?
Yeah, Sinister.
Yeah, Sinister's great. You know, I'm gonna honestly, I love Insidious. Oh. I think Insidious is my favorite of the bunch, and I really like Insidious 2 because it goes into the first. It does the Back to the Future 2 and goes into the first movie,
right.
And we've never really seen that in a horror movie before.
Yeah.
So I love the Insidious franchise in general, but I think the first one's my favorite Blumhouse movie.
Insidious franchise is so wacky. It's so wacky because
and it's gonna keep getting wacky.
I mean, like I was a journalist when it was like parts 1 and 2, and seeing 2, it's like, oh wait, that guy is really a little boy, and his mom made him cross-dress. What?
Yeah,
you know, and
pretty
it's
wild.
just like that's crazy. You know,
yes.
It's like it's fun. It felt like like kind of like a Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, or one of those kind of movies that was trying to be pushed into a supernatural filter.
You know what I love about the franchise is it's pulling like the Fast and Furious deal where they're like, we're going to go back just a couple of movies before, but we're not quite up to part 1 yet. So I kind of like the chronological.
Yeah. I also like The Town of Dreaded Sundown.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, I think that's actually one of the more solid remakes out there.
Kind of our first foray into slasher territory, and I think it's just weird enough to like play outside the mainstream.
Yes,
but also just stylish enough to be embraced by kind of like the art house crowd, you know. Okay. And that director went on to do, Me, Earl, and Dying Girl, which got tons of acclaim at Sundance. And he was also the filmmaker. He was a filmmaker who directed a lot of American Horror Story episodes, a lot of the best episodes.
Yeah.
He directed a couple episodes of Glee and stuff like that. But anyways, those are my two.
Okay. We'll check if there's any more questions on the line. But really quickly, I just need to advocate and push Synapse Films, who always does a great job, in particular with the Argento stuff. They just put out Basket Case 2 and 3 on Blu-ray.
Snap.
High def Belial, let me tell you. So I celebrated this weekend. I watched all 3 of them because Something Weird Video put out the first one on Blu-ray.
Right.
So I revisited that, and I gotta quote Elric on this because he called the original Basket Case the perfect midnight movie. Like he's like, that is the epitome of what you would see on 42nd Street as a grindhouse midnight movie. And I agree with him. And if you've never seen it, you need to immediately because it's one of the most wackiest, bizarre concepts for a quote-unquote slasher type movie about a guy that was part of a Siamese twin that splits, and now that he keeps him in a basket, Belial, his half brother, and they kind of go on a revenge mission to take out the doctors that separated them. Simple as that. Really weird. But you know what? I hadn't seen these in a long time, and I really love the sequels. Part 2 is just so freaking bonkers.
Is that the one where they're all in the school bus? Or is that the
That's
which
the third one.
That's the third one, okay.
But it does have all those quote-unquote freaks. Like it's very much Frank Henenlotter's like Tad Browning, version of Freaks, where they survive, the antics of part 1, go to this whole facility where there's a bunch of freaks. And, of course, Belial falls in love with another weird-looking little creature and has sex with it at one point. That's how weird this movie gets. But you know what's funny is like this movie was literally, the story is Frank Henenlotter went into, I forget the name of the company that put this out. Was it Shapiro Glickenhaus? He went in to pitch to get to try to get a couple of movies off the ground, and the one that he had was Frankenhooker, which he pretty much made up on the spot. He's like, we could do, because I think his original pitch got like that sounds cool, I guess, but what else you got? He's like, we could do Frankenhooker. He's like, what's that? He's like, I don't know, it's like Frankenstein with a hooker. And they're like, great, we'll give you a 2-picture deal. What's your second one? And he's like, I guess we could do a Basket Case sequel. So like neither of these movies, Frankenhooker or Basket Case 2, exists for no other reason than he like just got stuck in a meeting and was like, I'll do those movies. Wow. But I will say this, Basket Case 2 has my favorite ending to a sequel ever. I know that's bold. I've said it on Killer PV. Rewatching it still holds true. Best ending to a sequel of a horror movie ever. And then 3 is kind of not very good. And even Frank Henenlotter says that he kind of fucked this one up and didn't do as good a job as he could have.
Right.
However, I hadn't seen it in years. I rewatched it as part of a triple bill, and You know what? It's really funny. At least it's not great, but
It's
considering
like USA Up All Night material, you know.
I mean, considering how crazy this franchise, like that's why I'm fascinated that there's a trilogy of these movies. And the third one is a lot funnier than I remember it being. They like the timing of the characters and kind of the punchlines and the stuff they say. I was like, oh, he's going for comedy flat out for this third one. Right. So if you haven't seen them, I definitely recommend them. And Synapse did a killer job. They're both really great restorations of both movies. But Basket Case 2 in particular is one of my favorite horror movies of the 90s. You know, I
haven't seen either of those in a long time.
Well, if you'd like to walk away with them today, well, I'll put you on the Rob G waiting list, so I know that you have them.
I'll just get them. I'll get them.
All right, fair enough.
I just want to throw in that I spent the weekend watching Zombie Holocaust, a.k.a. Dr. Butcher, MD.
Which version?
I watched the Dr. Butcher edition.
Okay.
Just because Roy Frumkes was my former screenwriting teacher.
Right.
And I just needed to see the footage that he's actually in and participated in when he sold some footage to the Dr. Butcher team. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of the history is I didn't know about Dr. Butcher MD until I walked into a screenwriting class, and he was working on the Substitute movie with Tom Berenger. And he was talking about, I was kind of like that kid in college that he immediately gravitated to because he was like, he saw my Fangoria every day. Right. He saw that I was carrying a Laserdisc of like Escape from LA and Heavenly Creatures. And he's like, you like horror movies? He actually sold me Screamers on laser.
Oh, wow.
Like I had to go up to his place because he got, I don't know what he was doing, but he had like, at the time, he always got sweet discounts on Laserdiscs.
Right.
And he would be like, hey, Ryan, Chris, it was my roommate. He's like, you guys want some Laserdiscs? He's like, I got some for sale. And
he probably rolled up and like, you know, I'm responsible for Street Trash.
Well, that was the thing.
Kind of like played that card.
I had him as my screenwriting teacher and the editor of Street Trash as my editing teacher.
Oh.
And he is the liquor store owner in Street Trash. I think he might have passed away over the last couple of years. But so I come from that kind of history. But Roy told us about Dr. Butcher MD, and I was like, I've never seen this before. And I would go to Kim's video to try to find it, but I never like committed to it until I saw Dr. Butcher MD at the New Bev with a pairing of Zombie, and it was mind blowing. Terrible fucking movie. But I settled in on a Sunday afternoon and just watched it. I just went for it, and
sometimes
I realized two things. One, I wanted to just have my body covered in random symbols from Italian horror movies. So I want the symbol from Quito tattooed on my arm. And then, you know, I've got the Book of Eibon, you know, on my wrist. But Dr. Butcher MD is such a bad movie, but it's so lovable. It is so fucking lovable. Like, there's nothing that you can go point to one scene and go, that's a great scene. You know, there's some great gore gags, but it's so disjointed. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just like a fun kind of, luckily I had, you know, Ciara there with me watching it because she was just like laughing along with it. You have to watch it with a crowd. Can't say you could commit to it by yourself because then it's just a lonely and terrible experience. But the special features on this thing are amazing. Some of the interviews are fantastic. There's a kind of a before and after featurette that shows the New York City locations and shows, you know, how the city had grown up, so to speak.
Yeah.
Frumkes and I'm blanking on his name, take you on a tour of Grindhouse Cinema in New York City. So you go to Times Square and they're like, this Broadway stage behind us used to be this theater, and they'd show you the marquees. And what a glorious time.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it was just like marquee after marquee after marquee after marquee. And it was like Chud and Sleepaway Camp and, you know, on and on and on. And it was just awesome. It was that was one of my favorite featurettes, like above some of the just the kind of one-on-one interviews that were in there.
Yeah,
but, man, it's a good package.
Yeah, Severn did it. They do great.
Severn,
work.
Yeah. I mean,
they
like
were on our show a few episodes ago talking about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, like between
Barf
them,
Bag included,
them and Scream Factory and Arrow. I mean, like they're making me buy these movies that are complete trash. But I love them. You know, I just yesterday I got giddy because Microwave Massacre showed up.
We got to talk about that later. But
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it this weekend. It'll be my bad movie for Sunday.
All righty. Well, our guests have arrived, so I'm going to go get them.
Excellent.
And we're going to sign off from the live portion here. Thank you for tuning in. And stay tuned for the rest of the episode with our special guests. so we're back with our
Yes.
special guest, and there's already pandemonium.
The decibel level's already kicked up a notch.
It's already a little wild. I decided to save it for on air, apparently, because I'm in trouble. But welcome to the show, Tiffany Shepis, the great, the beautiful, the vivacious. Tiffany Shepis.
Hi,
Hi, look at you. And Felissa Rose.
It's a special.
And just hi,
Felissa Rose. Gorgeous.
vivacious as
Vivacious
well.
as well, yeah.
This is a special Scream Queen edition.
Scream Queen
of
edition.
Shockwaves.
Not anyone's birthday edition because we're not celebrating them this
Why
year.
would we? We don't need to celebrate
Because we're
anybody.
Jehovah's.
Let's give a big birthday shout out to Mr. Rob G.
Or
anti-birthday
a
shout out.
pre-birthday shout out to me, September 11th.
That's right.
Thank you.
There we
You're
go.
welcome. Thank
Very
you.
appropriate.
Happy birthday.
Let's just celebrate all 4 of our birthdays right now. It's like
or
let's
just
put it out
mine
there.
and
Just
not Rob's.
yours.
So
And not
this is
mine.
kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Why are you mad at me? We can't start the show until we resolve this.
No, nobody's mad at
this a
you,
lot of
Rob. But
therapy.
Rob
You were
calls and he's
yelling.
like, "Hey,
Come on the
Shep, I want you to do the show with Felissa, and it's gonna be awesome because you guys are my favorite Scream Queens. You're my favorite friends, and blah blah blah." And then
Here
the
comes.
next day,
Here comes.
Oh, all these birthday posts. I'm with my best friends, having the best time at these screenings. God bless my
That's
friends.
not
I
exactly
love my
accurate.
friends. Guess what?
You're making Rob sound like Tiny Tim. And
And where is your ukulele?
Listen, okay? My friend let me use his backyard to show a movie. And it's not my house. I had to keep it
And
to
what
the
about your
bare
second birthday party?
minimum. Whatever. I went to my local pub, which I could
second
walk
birthday
to.
party.
It's okay, Rob.
Anybody-
I'll console you.
Anybody
I'll
was
rub
welcome.
You. I'll
That's-
make you
yes,
feel
Felissa
better.
Listen,
Listen,
Rob.
I didn't see
There we
that
go.
anyone is
wait a minute,
welcome.
you went to the second
invite.
birthday party?
No, but anybody could have come to either if they really wanted
No,
to.
if we
It's not-
really stalked you
if we
and
had a
found
time.
out.
Exactly.
We
You
got a
should be.
time.
We
should
knew
be
the
stalking
time or
more.
the place.
All right.
Anyway, it's all good. Who cares?
Reining
Ryan,
this
were you
conversation
there?
in.
I'm a,
Well, no, I told Rob ahead of
Oh, yeah,
time I
Ryan
was
didn't
not
show
going to
up
be able to
either,
make it.
so there you go.
I wasn't able to make it to the Saturday one, but I said I would be able to make it out to the drinks one, and then I never got a time.
What grown-up has more than one birthday party?
it's not. It's not. It wasn't intended to be that.
Shut
We're
up.
going to
I've got a birthday. I've
McDonald's
got a
next.
birthday month. So
I agree with that.
Listen, technically I'm on vacation. I shouldn't be taking any of this shit,
I
quite
don't know.
frankly.
I want to have the Hamburger
This
show up
week.
for your next one, and I'll get us some fucking crowns, too.
So welcome to Tiffany Shepis, everybody.
Sure, there we go. Now that that's out of the
If
way.
you've never met Tiffany, this
She
is
likes
pure.
to bust balls, as you could tell.
Yes.
apparently.
And this is why our personalities have gravitated and we all become friends.
Yes.
Felissa as well. Felissa, you and I became friends a little further down the road.
I'm like the stepchild.
You were
in
always, you know
horror.
what? I
I
always
was-
thought you were a pain in the ass when we first met.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
listen.
totally.
Thought?
Me and Felissa.
Oh, I guess this is an honest session.
we're
Rob,
yes, it totally
hey,
is.
I
This is like
see
therapy.
why we're seated the way we are. Okay,
'Cause look,
There's
Strong-
a divider. in
Strong
the
Island is on this
table.
side of the table, all right? We're both from
Sing
Long
it,
Island, so
baby.
there
New
you
York.
go.
Yeah.
Whatever. You're not from New York. Get out of here. You are.
I grew up in New York. I lived in New York long enough.
Gobstoppers.
All right, I see. So it's
Why
now I
would I
see
pain in
versus
the
Long
ass?
Island. I got
Wait,
it.
we have to hear this.
Yeah, what's
Can I
going on?
chime in, though, that you came later, even though you've been around forever, you came later onto the scene.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously her movies
You-
all
you
watched,
mean-
but
you
you
mean
as a
the
person.
Fright Club scene.
I see.
I was always
no, this is-
on the outside of the
Yeah,
group.
you're always, yeah. That
Well,
was
look,
a good
this
place
is-
to be. That was a good place to be.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is actually
Like, wow, these people are dumb.
well, this is a fun place to start. I actually want to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
a lot about your friendship together because I think it's neat and cool. but
And also, I think this is a good episode to kind of peek behind. We'll treat this episode as a novel. Right. At the beginning of my novel, it
Where are the
begins
Cliff
with
Notes?
me hosting the Sleepaway Camp screening
Right.
at the Arrow.
Yeah.
About a week and a half ago with Felissa, who brings Jewel Shepard.
Oh, yeah?
And Jewel I've known.
No, I didn't even know she was going to be there.
oh, okay. Well, there you go. Can't even get the narrative
So
right.
Jewel just shows up.
But remind me, I start with Jewel Shepard.
Okay.
So everything goes back to Jewel Shepard. Go ahead.
Okay,
For you.
so
Okay,
Jewel
great.
Jewel shows up, and I've known Jewel for a while, and so just before Sleepaway Camp, which came after the burning, Jewel comes up to me and she's like, "I'm having such a good time." I'm like, "Great! I'm glad you came. You look great. Everything's good." Blah blah blah. And then she's like, "I've never seen Sleepaway Camp," and I went, "Wait a minute, what?" And she goes, "Ryan, I don't watch these movies." And I go, "Wait a second, what?" And she goes, "I'm serious." I'm like, I got to go host this thing. I'll see you later. And I just walked
Melissa's
away.
posting, and she's going to talk shit right now
I'm
online.
read what Jewel Shepard posted on Instagram. Have
About,
you heard?
No,
about the
no, no.
screening?
We're allowed to curse on this?
Sure. Yeah.
She was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was fucking bizarre and weird and terrible.
I love it. I love it. But
Good for you, Jewel.
But it's like, but that, you know, Jewel showing up at an Arrow screening with you, you know, and it's like, obviously Tiffany's part of this, like, you know, it's like the Scream Queen thing is a legacy. That's like a thing that we grew up with. It's a, I don't know, it's a faction of the industry that obviously adolescents grew up on and latched onto, you know. And it's just like it's a subset of the industry that not many people kind of peek behind the curtain on, you know. I mean, every once in a while there will be an article like Fangoria and about Tiffany.
Wolf in Shepis clothing.
That's a
you
great
know,
title,
that gives a little peek behind that curtain. But no, I figured this would be a good episode to kind of go there.
Well, you know, and it plays into what you said before they came on when we were talking about the effects guys.
Oh, yeah.
The 80s, how the effects guys were kind of like the rock stars, and
Right.
the Scream Queens are kind of like the equivalent of that, at least
are you
for us.
saying,
growing
Rob?
up,
Are we the
that they're rock
groupies?
stars. No,
No, the rock stars of that.
You're like Lita Ford.
Subside.
But what's really
exactly. Like
Vixen.
Lita Ford, the
Yeah.
Vixens.
Yeah.
interesting
Yes.
about
I'll
my
be Cherie
crazy
Curry.
Jewel Shepard story is that back when like the conventions weren't every weekend and it was like, you know, you just had like 2 a year maybe, and going to Chiller Theater in New Jersey was like the shit. And I remember I had just started out and I'm looking around, I'm looking at people like Brinke Stevens and who else was like a staple at that show, like maybe Julie Strain and
Monique Gabrielle,
like Monique Parent, like a lot of these women were there, and I'm like, damn, like look at them, and like they really had like kind of like a class and a composure about them, like greeting fans and being really excited, even though there's some of them are signing like spread eagle shots, you know, but they really held this like kind of cool Scream Queen like classiness fandom about them that I was like, that's so dope, like I want to do that because I was like, you know, like a teenager, right? And Jewel Shepard wrote an article for Time Out magazine, like
right.
Time Out New
I
York,
remember that,
and it was this like little blurb where she posted a picture of me in like a stupid crazy outfit that I wore back then, and it was like Scream Queen, Tiffany Shepis, blah blah, and I was like, I've made it. Like it was literally like this moment for me, like being kind of called that by someone I was
Right.
like, that's a Scream Queen,
Passing
Right.
the torch.
like Linnea Quigley, Brinke Stevens, Julie, like these girls, and which is why now I'm like always like, you know, fuck you, new Scream Queen girl.
Yeah.
Nobody crowned you that. Like,
The self-proclaimed Scream Queen. It was just funny because if you listen to our old show, Killer POV, we did separate episodes both with Tiffany and Felissa, which you should listen to because we delved into that.
Yeah.
And you know, I kind of feel, to me, like Tiffany is like the last person I consider a Scream Queen.
On a
post her.
Well, I
like,
think
from
there's tiers, you know, just
Yeah.
like there are director tiers and
yeah.
producer
Yeah, I
tiers, you
think
know. I
so.
mean, like there's, you know, Jamie Lee was a specific tier, whereas like Jewel and like the kind of 80s subset of, you know, cool creature movies and stuff like that, and you know, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and Linnea Quigley and all that. That's another tier, you know. And I felt like 90s still had that. Like we were trying to force
falling off. But
it was
was
falling
there.
off.
Yeah.
But the Nev Campbells and the Sarah Michelle Gellers and the Jennifer Love Hewitts, they didn't
They were, like, the
embrace it.
Yeah.
mainstream.
They were the mainstream
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
You know, like the I think it's when the mainstream and the public puts that label on you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when you become.
well,
you
it's
know?
funny because like Felissa and I tried to, you know, fairly hard to create a show kind of based around these women, these kind of Scream Queen women, and all different age ranges, like, you know, from very, very old to very, very young. And yet we had the hardest time finding the very, very young. Because it was like, it really doesn't exist anymore. And possibly because people don't really go to, like, at least out here, like video stores, and you're not going to sit there and kind of scroll through things. It's like, they're just not making, or these women aren't around to be a part of, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Wait, well,
They're
what's
just-
it like? What's the equivalent now? Like
who
a
is it
YouTube
now,
star, but they
sort
don't
of?
even need the horror element. Like they
Yes.
can just be a star for being.
Well, I think social
having,
media has
you know.
changed a lot of it. I think YouTube, Vine, Instagram, social media has changed a lot of the perspective of who's famous.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of self-proclaimed, like, I've got 10 million followers. You know,
and-
that is a level of fame, but I don't know. Who you
Also,
are.
the thing is, like back in the day, you used to be, or you know, up until a few years ago, you'd go to a horror convention, and the famous people there were me and Felissa. Now you go, and it's like really, really famous people that go to these shows that you
yeah.
can meet. So it's like, why would you buy something? And not saying you shouldn't go out and buy stuff from me and Felissa, but really, why? Like, where? when you're like, whoa, this person or this person I watch on television every single night is here, and they've been in 1,000 huge mainstream films. So it's kind of taken the coolness away from the minor.
Well, there's a saturation point. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like Chiller Theater. When I went, Chiller Theater was collectibles, model kits. You know, I mean, like that's where it came from. Chiller started as like a model kit collector kind of thing.
I got a model kit. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
This Japanese company made a model kit after me.
They did. I
holding a sword with
right.
a dragon. Like I've never done a fantasy film in my life.
What is it from then?
They just were like, this will sell. They're like, you sell. And dragons and you with the sword.
God,
I'll
find it for you. I have it in this book called Garage Kit in my wallet, and there it is.
Dude,
it's like,
they sold so many of these.
Do you have one at least?
I have one that's broken, and I have one that's unput together, and we're saving it because Max, like our little guy Max, who's 3, is like way into paint and stuff. Like how awesome! Be like, you want to paint something?
He was planning on giving it to you, Rob.
That's what you were going to get at your birthday.
Felissa, when did you start kind of embracing the world, like and embracing the convention and all that stuff?
Because Tiffany kind of started, like she was kind of always in it young from the trauma days. Yeah. So you've always kind of had the convention circuit and the Scream Queen thing, whereas you did a movie as a kid. And then many years later, it was like, oh, people like and remember this movie. So I'm curious about your perspective.
For me, it was like I did Sleepaway Camp, and then it was over in terms of doing any more horror movies. And I went on to school, and I was in New York doing theater and whatnot. And then everyone went with the internet and like websites for Sleepaway Camp. That was 2001 when we were first introduced to Fangoria in New York, and it was like, whoa, look, we're here. But I still hadn't done many. And then slowly, when I came out to LA about 12 years ago, people really started saying, hey, you should do more horror movies. And that's when it started to happen for me. But I was always like on the outside. I feel like I was just, kind of looking from the outside in, but now in the past few years, I've been on the circuit hard with like Kane and Bill and Sid and Dee, and I'm like, and I'm fucking here with all of you.
We're trying to get her out.
They're like, security.
Here's the door.
So and it's been a great, it's fun now. I'm trying to reinvent and do things like
you
Slayer
produce a lot.
videos.
Yeah.
I mean, from the Slayer videos to like Death House and all the stuff we have coming up on the. It's incredible.
Well, it's kind of cool to watch you on the scene now, like when we're at conventions and stuff, because like you weren't doing it for all those years in between. Like there are hardcore Sleepaway Camp fans that show up and they're like, I've waited all these years to meet you. Yeah. Where like the rest of all of us are like, yeah, you again? Oh, wow.
Felissa's here, guys.
Did anybody ask her?
Did she show up with Jewel?
Oh, my God. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because what's fun to me is that you both, the reason I brought, the reason I thought it'd be fun to have both of you on is because you both over the last few years have become really good friends. You both have kids. You do things with your kids together. I just kind of like I find it funny that it's like, how did Shep and like Rose become like buddies? So like
the hugger and the slugger.
It's all because of Dr. Chin, the gynecologist supreme.
Oh my! All right, there's a story here.
This is a Hollywood story.
It's all about our vaginas.
Yeah. All right. Let's back up.
So I was.
And his name is Dr. Chin.
His name's Dr. Chin, and he delivered the Kardashian babies.
Yeah, he's.
Started with me and
Paul
moved
Stanley,
on to...
And he's Paul Stanley.
Folks, exclusive here. Here we go. Let's go.
This is the Kanye story of Fede Alvarez.
No, we're starting this now because all of a sudden Dr. Chin's going to be making a movie at Blumhouse. And he's going to be in here all the time. He's going to be like the Blumhouse gynecologist. It's going to be a disaster.
There's a sign that says Jim in the parking lot. We're like, how do you get there?
We're banging at the gate.
Oh, my God.
No, so I was pregnant with my daughter, and her and I became friends because you had me over to your house for like do some interview for something.
For Fangoria.
Oh, yeah. Was it for Fango?
It was.
Okay.
And we became friends. I was like pregnant, and she was like, I want to have a
baby one day?
And I was like, oh.
And I said, I was like, rub on me.
She's like, rub on me. And I was like, God, lesbian.
My secret way.
Secret love me.
Do you think if we make out, I'll make out? I don't care about your belly.
No, but she was like, oh, let me rub your belly. I really want to get pregnant. Me and Darren want to have a baby. And so she legit rubbed on my belly. And next thing you know, she's like, I'm pregnant too.
Wow.
The magical powers of Shepis.
And she was the first person to watch Mia that was not my mother. Because I had to run. Actually, I hosted a show for very brief for Playboy TV called Etc. And I had to run to the audition. And I called her and I was like, will you watch Mia? And she's like, of course, anything. I'm like, it's only going to be an hour. It's right down the street from your house. And I get there and Mia would not stop screaming with Felissa.
I was like, oh my God, this baby.
Again, she was like big and pregnant. She's like, this baby's so cute, but it doesn't like me. And I was like, shit, maybe I shouldn't leave her here.
Wow.
But she gave it to her husband, and Mia like instantly stopped. Was like, oh,
I see.
Oh.
He's got the magic touch.
yeah,
I gotta go now.
She like rocker guys or something. But yeah, so we were friends since then, and then I moved away and came back, and when I came back, she's like, hey, we got to get the girls together.
Now all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I went from, oh my God.
Well, now it's older now, to get to real life. And, she's like now more like big hand. Shepis, come bring your baby over. So we got the girls together, which was Mia and Bianca, who are very similar in age. And
hang on, just a second. Let's halt that. When she does her impression of that, it makes it sound like Marge Simpson's sisters.
really?
Yeah, a little bit. The two of you both doing
Patty
that.
and Zelma.
Yeah. Continue. Sorry.
We have a new career.
Anybody out there who's like,
Anyone's listening who wants our voiceover work? Anyway, they were instantly best friends, these little girls. Like, it was legit like they were like soul sisters.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
They're
not
about the same
kidding
age,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah.
Remember the whole pregnant belly thing, that whole story? Were you
no.
still in your birthday fucking memory bank?
Unbelievable this
Like,
one.
not listening?
No, but what did they like a year apart? I didn't want to talk to my younger like cousins and stuff, so I'm a mean kid.
Cricket. Way to end the podcast.
Fine, whatever.
Glad you have good guests to carry this show.
Yeah, I'll sit out. Go ahead. Continue your very
Anyway, they
interesting
became
story.
best of friends and blah, blah, blah. And now we're kind of stuck together because they're in love with each
Because
other.
you're kids. I see.
Because of the kids.
All right.
One of these days, I'm due to kind of like intervene with this whole thing and bring Ciara and her kid.
Yeah.
We gotta get it together.
right.
Literally, I was supposed to send out an email today, and I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you did send out an email, and it was like, hey, Shepis, Felissa, my family get together. And I was like, sweet, when? And then never heard back.
Sorry.
He was at
I got
Rob's
busy.
party.
No, he wasn't.
Oh boy.
So, yeah. So now, and then, our kids hang out and they make horror movies. And then, I'll get phone calls. They're like, hey, Shepis, what are you doing? Are you free this month? And I'm like, I'm totally free. They're like, well, not you, but, for Mia to be in this movie.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, so the respective children under your roof, are they kind of getting into the industry
Hers
beyond like having Mike Mendez give a call and say, hey, let me use Mia?
Hers are.
Mine
Yeah.
are obsessed with horror movies.
Yours likes Godzilla. That's right. One of them
Well,
is a big Godzilla
no, now
fan.
it's like
oh,
it's gone.
moved
It's
on.
like Halloween and Black Christmas
it's
and
fantastic.
Chucky and Misery and everything.
Yeah.
Poltergeist. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're obsessed.
Next
Yeah,
wave.
no, but your
So
kids
next
want it, at least Bianca wants to make movies.
She does, yeah.
She wants to be in films. And
Yeah, I think so. And do the special effects makeup as well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
yeah, Mia's not, Mia, I think, would do it if it was just kind of handed to her,
Right,
but
right.
she has no real interest in, I'm going to
She's
go
gonna
out
be a
and audition, or
doctor.
I want to study. She wants to be a lung doctor.
Yeah. How have the fans changed since 90s or the 2000s for you guys?
Gotten fatter. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm just quoting. Felissa, why would you say that? So rude. Gee whiz.
No, I mean it's just it's interesting because it's like nothing's changed and everything's changed in terms of like the ages. I mean, like when we were at Sleepaway Camp, they like there was one kid who's amazing. He's a fan of Shockwaves. He reads Blumhouse.com and he was like, yeah, I'm here. Can't wait to see the movie. I brought this, and he like unfolds like a sleepaway camp, like some sort of thing, and he's like, yeah, if Felissa could sign, that'd be awesome. And I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, I'll see. I was like, I'll see what I can do. And I forgot. But no, but I saw him line up for you when he was up on the stage. So yeah.
I said, call Tiffany Shepis, she'll sign it.
Yeah, I always sign everything for her.
But have they gotten more enthusiastic or more weird or more?
I just have a lot more women.
We have different crowds.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you and I do
That's
have
great.
very different fan bases.
Yes.
But I've gotten a lot more women.
That's
like
awesome.
it used to be just a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
And now it's a lot of women. It's a lot of women that bring their kids and their nieces. And now, honestly, Sharknado had a big part in that. Like the weird kind of campy fans for that are so very different. But what was cool about it is that those people who would generally not go to a horror convention show up and they're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what else is here? And then, like, we'll turn them on to stuff that they're, like, now, you know, like, big genre fans.
Yeah.
Right.
So that had its purpose, you know, besides.
Yeah, the convention, from what I've heard, I mean, like, and I see this at the Fangoria shows when they had them, but Monsterpalooza certainly, there's like a larger contingent of women there, you know, and even for when we talk about Blumhouse movies in our audience, you know, it's predominantly women, you know, I mean, like that's how the horror crowd has evolved. There's still, you know, the kind of like leather jacket wearing, you know, ghost T-shirt wearing, you know.
You mean the
dudes,
Ryans?
the Ryans of the world. There's
Young
still
Ryans
a
of
lot
the
of
world.
young me's. Yeah, I just like.
Well, I mean, like
I just like clone myself and just leave. But for you, Felissa, what's your crowd?
You know, they're young.
Yeah.
They're young and they're enthusiastic and they're wild about sleepaway camp. I don't even know. It's just
And what are they
and
like?
I've become
new generation,
and they're all my friends.
Is it like new people that keep discovering the original Sleepaway Camp? Like,
It's new
you know
people
what I mean?
who just it's like a really young generation of kids who just love sleepaway camp.
And what are they latching onto when they come up to you and they're like,
They
"Oh, I love this movie."
She was bullied, and it was a provocative film for its time, and that she was, you know, at the end. It's all about the end.
Yeah.
That's all everyone.
But
talks
I've heard
about.
people say to her, like, you know, I felt that same way that she did, you know, like
Yeah.
felt like ostracized or bullied or picked on or put down or whatever. And your movie got me through it. And they're not old dudes. They're like, you know, 25-year-old people that somehow discovered it and
there's
on.
also an emotional, like I feel like I get very involved
you get a lot of
with
people
the
that
people
cry.
emotional, a lot of crying, a lot of sentimental moments. Like
Sure.
we stand and we hug and we
Oh,
stay
that's
in
cool.
touch.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just bringing it to you, man. You just say, you know what? Open
love
arms
it.
over here.
I do. I'm like, let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
That's very accurate.
I've always been like that.
I mean,
you
come on,
know?
Tiff.
It's
Do
like-
you have a movie that people come up and cry about? I
The
mean,
hazing, come on, my ass is like a fucking temple. People sit there, they stare, and they cry.
That outfit is legendary. from the
Legendary.
Hazing.
Isn't the silver
It is.
one?
The
The
silver
silver
one.
one.
Yeah, you remember. Yeah, of course.
And Perry Shen is now on General Hospital, so
Yeah.
good for him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did all the Hatchet movies as like star of General Hospital, all because of the hazing. I'm gonna go with
That's
that.
so
I
cool.
thought all the soaps went away.
No, they're still around.
Brad Dourif, you know.
No, but seriously though, seriously, what movies do they come up to
And
they're-
cry?
I mean, like
No, nobody comes
you
up
have
and cries.
you have a credited like count of what? Like how many movies?
a lot.
170 something probably.
I don't know, like 100 and something. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, I
go
got
on IMDb.
really.
But do they come and go, not cry, but do they go, oh, the hazing, or they go, oh, Death Machine, oh.
Romeo and
Trump and
Juliet.
Juliet.
No,
Romeo
I was
and
so
Juliet.
lit. I had such a small part. I was so young. in that.
Abominable.
Oddly enough, it's always something different. Like I rarely get. I wish I had that one movie where
Right.
it's like you're known for that. Almost every person is like. I mean, I do get a lot of like, which was an odd movie, but because it played Sci-Fi Channel a lot back then, was a movie called The Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I get a lot of Scarecrow. Like, not that they love the film, but it was like I've discovered you
Yeah,
because of this, and then I followed your stuff after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always different. Like Abominable, a lot of love for Abominable, a lot of love for Ted Bundy, which
Oh,
I'm always like,
That's, yeah.
it's a kind of a sick movie. But I did have like the coolest part in it where,
Yeah.
it kicked
And
the
you
shit
had a
out of
problem
him.
with that one, too. I remember you were telling me.
I did, but I mean, it was like,
That was a long time ago.
I feel like I have the opposite problem. I feel like I've done a lot of movies and only the only one everyone talks about is Sleepaway Camp. And I'm like, what about Satan's Playground? Like, okay, what about? I mean, no, see, that's what I'm better
Yeah,
at.
totally,
Like Camp
yeah.
Dread or Zombie Killers or even more current. And it's like,
Hold up, wait a second. Playground.
here we
I
go.
hosted the Q&A at the Fangoria show.
Which one?
For Satan's
one?
Playground.
For Satan's
Dante
Playground.
Yeah,
Thomas
Dante
Howley's
Thomas
Yeah,
Howley,
were you on that panel or was it just Dante? Because that might have been the
was
first
in
there.
LA?
With Ellen Sandweiss. It was the three of us.
Holy crap, that was the
Yeah.
first time we met.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Memories.
I have
That's
photographic
right.
evidence
Robert
of this
Englund
somewhere.
was there.
Yeah.
I remember
That's
hugging
right.
him. I
Because
was
that was
so
my first. That was
excited.
my first year working for
think we did
Fangoria. Then I was
meet then.
doing the Q&A thing on stage.
You made such a good
Look at
impression.
that. Yeah,
Obviously.
apparently.
Oh, shut up! Jesus.
I
He didn't
hosted
even-
your
He didn't even
panel
know I
and-
was on the
Well,
fucking
unlike wait a minute, unlike there was the abominable panel in
Was I
which
on
you
that?
just took over.
Oh, at
you
Fango.
Yeah, Fango.
And
You
I
just,
had like such a small part in it.
and you were
too.
just like she just like took over. She was like, Turek, I got this. And
I
was like,
remember
what the
that.
Fuck?
Were you on the Night of the
I'm
Demons
kind of a
panel
jerk
too?
that way. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you knew more about the franchise and Angela than the girl that played Angela.
Well,
Shannon
I mean,
Elizabeth.
there's Shannon Elizabeth. She's so pretty. Yeah. No, I don't know. She was very nice. She was very nice, but I don't think she was a horror fan.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I mean, I
No,
would have killed, like, legitimately killed to play the Angela part. And,
Yeah. Right.
and I told Adam that. I was like, you will not find a better Angela for this than me. Because
Yeah.
I will fucking own
You would have
it.
actually been in the
I
makeup
will-
too, unlike Shannon.
I would have done everything.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
oh, whatever. The crazy money stealing door woman is.
No, it's great.
It's pretty cool.
You're brought up
too.
like later on. They're like, where'd she go? Oh,
Where did she go?
You're
That
like a
bitch
pivotal
Diana.
character.
That movie is really interesting because it's such a time capsule.
You
of
got
a
naked in
certain,
What?
Yes, folks. Did you hear
let's
that? It's
clarify. Naked.
You were.
see my butt.
Yep.
But that's
That
not,
you would get a
doubling.
certain rating for that on television, so that is naked.
Who are you doubling for again? Which character?
I was doubling
Furlong.
for not Ed Furlong. I
No.
fought Ed Furlong. I was doubling
You
for
guys have the
the
same
kind
body.
of the dude who is dating Dior Baird's character. That
Yeah.
was like the main dude that was like her hookup.
Right.
Oh,
So-
Michael Copon.
Yeah. I was doubling for him, and it was me and Bobby Luther and the stunt girl that was there. She was awesome.
Hear that, everyone at Blumhouse?
Yep.
You want to
They
see
know, they
Ryan
know.
Ryan, but-
Turek?
Full
can see
disclosure,
that.
you know when I
Wait,
walked
were
in here, I
you
was like,
listed under
before you
is
hire
Ryan
me,
Rotten or Ryan Turek in the credits?
I'm not credited. I think I got a special thanks.
Do you all remember when he retired Rotten and became just Turek? Do you remember this day? Because I remember the day
Nobody
that
Was there ceremony?
I remember when
Did you
I
burn
called
at
you.
something?
He
I
totally
thought
did.
about it.
I
I thought
remember
about it.
referring to you once to somebody. I was like, "Oh, that's Ryan Rotten." You're like, "Ryan Rotten is dead." I'm Ryan Turek. Yeah, that's exactly what. Right? Okay, so I know I did your best.
So when I was
Back
on
to the
that
point of
flight,
Night of the Demons.
when we were on that flight together,
Yeah.
what,
So, Felissa, I was coming back. I was coming back to.
I don't know you.
No, I was coming back from, we were coming back from Orlando.
Or Alabama. I was
Or
like,
Alabama, yeah. I was
We're-
coming back from Halloween Horror Nights, and I'm
Well, you
sitting
guys
in the-
randomly met on a plane?
on the plane.
Yes.
I was literally sitting there
This is-
in the
oh, this
aisle
is a
seat,
funny
sitting
story.
in the aisle seat, and I kind of like look down the aisle, and then I see Felissa, like a couple aisles up, peek her head around the seat, and she looks, and I just see her kind of like poke her head around a corner, and she goes, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Felissa." And she's
And
like,
the plane was packed. Wait, this is funny. The flight was packed except for the seat
Yeah,
next to me.
next to you, yeah.
And so Ryan came and sat. I moved over.
Yep.
We had a
slide
wonderful
devil, you.
flight
Yeah, we had
with
a
the
great flight.
woman.
Yeah. The woman
the
who was
psychic.
the weird psychic who was
psychic?
It was
the weird
weirdest-
psychic who was coming on to me, and then also like I think she was coming on to you, and it was just weird. It was weird.
Awesome.
It was weird. It was
What did
very
she want?
weird.
Oh,
Like
it
a
was
Mile High
inter-
Club? Like,
I
Yes.
think she did.
Yeah.
She was
Well,
like, so
probably
what's your deal, both of you?
I know.
anybody want to
like,
meet me in the
what?
bathroom?
And we were both like,
We were
no.
like shivering like next to each other. Like, "Oh, this is the scariest thing we've ever been through.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But we caught up a lot then. Like
We
that's
did,
when we
yeah.
got to like
Know
know
each other.
Yeah. Going back to Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons.
I was gonna say I rewatched it recently, and I was like, I told Ciara, I was like, this encapsulates like everybody now, like the horror community, like what anybody who's anybody in the horror genre is like here or represented here. Like James Wan, even though he was too big for Night of the Demons, like his creation is there.
in it, yeah.
Adam Green's creation is there, even though he's not in it. You're in it. I'm in it. Bobby's. Everybody's like.
I was outside watching you guys.
Outside of the dome, like looking in, waiting for it.
Like, I think they're filming today.
Were you waiting for Rob G's birthday party that night?
She was handling the door. But no, it's just an interesting movie to see because everybody who's part of the scene is like in that, you know, and they've all moved on. It's like we all built up Fright Club to that moment, and then we all just broke. We're like,
let's blame it on
and
Demons.
break.
Demons the ones that tore it apart, I guess.
Adam G is sitting there pissed right now.
No, that's all right. I'm curious for both of you, because you both are on the convention circuit, and also doing, whatever stuff you can do, independent movies, horror movies, TV for you. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's the balance between the two. Like, which is more lucrative, or which do they both kind of play off each other, like doing the conventions and then doing like the indie movies?
I mean, to me, like, I got in this to make movies, like make movies, make television show, to act. Like, going to the conventions and stuff is all fun, but nobody wants you at a convention unless you're making
something. Right.
So to me, it's like you have to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Unless, you get lucky enough to be in some giant franchise that you can keep living off of forever, which I'm like, fuck yeah, kill me, Machete Head. It's like, like I have no problem living off the same movie over and over and over again. No problem at all. But yeah, for me, I'd much rather do that.
Keep making movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean by that is I feel like they play into each other. It's like, obviously, conventions are great promo for all the stuff you're working on. But at the same time, you need to consistently work because obviously you got to pay bills and stuff like that. So you do as many independent projects that seem like interesting enough that you can. I
used to do the conventions a lot, not just, because obviously it's super fun to meet the fans, but I would meet a lot of filmmakers that would put me in movies.
Right.
Josh Eisenstadt, who did Dark Reel, which you were in too.
Yeah.
I met at a Fango.
You guys work together a lot.
Oh my God, I just remembered that.
You and Spooky Dan.
Yes.
Another movie with Ed Furlong. Maybe you're in love with Ed Furlong. Uh-oh. Breaking news, folks. Breaking news.
If only I could find my Ed Furlong. Where has he gone?
We'll get him for you. We're near downtown. But I used to go and meet filmmakers there, like aspiring filmmakers that 2 years later were like, hell yeah, I'm out of film school. I went to SVA. I'm going to make a movie with you. Now I don't get that as much. I don't get as many movie people. I think probably because they're out just making their damn movie.
Right.
And not roaming around conventions. Like, they can just kind of do it on their own now. I don't know. What about you?
I'm out of ideas. No, I feel like my hustle is hard. I feel like I'm working a lot. I have like a lineup right now of like 6 films I'm on. And every weekend I'm at a convention. Yeah. So I feel like I am just like, I think I've decided I just want to do this hard. And if I'm going to commit and really be in it, it has to be 100%. Like balls to the wall. Yeah. So it's kind of like I have no downtime. I'm very grateful for it. And it was never like this. And probably because I got married and I had kids, and then I decided to raise my kids for like 10 years. And now I'm just really into it. So I'm just glad that I'm sort of, doing what I'm doing and getting the work that I am.
And how has, how's like social media changed how hard you guys work and how you how you continue your brand? Are you guys super active, or do you just see that as one more piece of the machine that that's like a little bit too much work to deal with?
She's
really, it's like I'm a very
she's on fire with that
person.
stuff.
Like, I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm on social media for like 2 hours.
I know.
That I go right into my, East Coast calls and emails. Then I go right into my West Coast email. Like, I'm a very time management, like business. Yeah. When I was in college, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to be an actress. I was also in business school. It was like I understood that it was show business, and if I wanted to do both, I had to, utilize both parts of my brain. Even though I come off like a big old it's part of the thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's something else. But yeah, I use the social media quite a bit.
And it's funny because I was that way. And I'm still up at 5 a.m. trying to do the hustle the same way. Like, you do stuff before. Because, if you're balancing, like any working mother, it doesn't matter what you do if you're a banker or you're an actor. Like, you still have to juggle that in a proper way. If you're going to be good at either of them. But I got to the point where it was like, I was like hustling so hard and I'd make these movies and you know what? I would fucking show up. I'd show up. I'd know my lines. I'd do my job. And then your movie let me down. Your movie's a piece of shit. And why do I now have to promote it?
Right.
I also cut you a break on my rate too. So it's like, I didn't only had to go to middle of nowhere, Alabama, shoot your crappy movie, but now you want me to promote it too. And not that that's not part of the job, but it's like, I feel like you let me down. And so that became like kind of hard to get behind everything. So I kind of started to reel it back and take a lot less projects like that right off the bat I wasn't super, super excited about. Unfortunately, things like, having money, like, if you have a spouse that works a little harder,
I was just going to bring that up too. We're at different places in our lives because, like, she has a little one and mine are getting older. So we're at different places.
So you like can choose different routes you want to take. Like mine was to slow down a little bit. And I'm like, okay, if I'm really behind that, I'm really excited. It doesn't matter the outcome because I know everybody's heart was in the same place and we're going to promote it all the same. Because I was getting like a lot of these movies that I would make 8 years ago and all of a sudden the market turned around and they couldn't put them out. And now they're going, hey, Tiffany Shepis, our movie's finally done. I'm like, dude, I know you're excited because you haven't made a movie in 8 fucking years, but guess what? I've made 50. I don't remember what I played in your crappy movie. I probably wasn't excited about it then. I'm sure as hell not excited now. But you still have to kind of go, hey, everybody, check out blah, blah, blah. That's tough. So I'd much rather post pictures of my kid wearing a Batman costume.
But what is the selection process for you guys, in terms of what film to commit to? What is the
money. No.
I'm sure, but
that's definitely a part of it.
I think it's the same for anybody. It's like schedule. Does it work? Does it make sense? Like, does it make sense for me to be gone? Like, these guys just reached out to me about a project in Michigan, and just the amount of days needed really didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I'm like, well, I could maybe play a different part for you just because it didn't make sense for my family. It didn't make sense monetarily. It didn't make sense. Like, part was good and fun, but I didn't believe anything that was going to like, hey, wow, I'm all of a sudden famous. So it's like, if I'm going to be gone, I need to be excited about it, and, or be making a lot of money. Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it for me. It's like, is Rob G going to be there? Oh, no. Awesome. I'm in.
Rob
terrible. She's going to pick on me the whole night. Felissa, are you, like, obviously you've been getting more into the producing side of things. Is that more of your focus, or do you still kind of get the charge out of acting as well? Because lately it seems like you're kind of more focused on the producing side. I
really love producing. I really do. And it was fun working with Tiffany because she's in Death House. I just fucking like get off on putting that whole giant, enormous, amazing puzzle together. But I definitely, my heart is in acting as well. So I think when I can either do both or I can, I'm loving producing right now. But because I have a lot of acting on the burner, I'm just enjoying each project as it comes. Sometimes I'm doing both. Sometimes, like I just got back from New York. I produced and acted. Great time. It was a romantic comedy.
Oh, get out of my office.
Yeah, nobody listening to this is gonna.
But it's it's fun. I like doing both. I like working them in.
You're good at producing. Like, I was actually really shocked, and I told her that. Well, it is true. Like, sometimes you see your friends in just certain ways. Like, I've had people that know me as a convention person, and then they see me as a mother, and they're like, "Whoa, you're actually good at that." You know what I mean? It's like people put on different facades for different things. Right. And I remember, I've known her for many years, and going to the Death House set, and I was like, "Oh shit." Like, you're actually good at this. Like, I'm really impressed. Like, if I didn't know you, I'd go, oh, wow, a producer. Like, I wouldn't go, oh, an actor turned producer. I wouldn't put that beforehand, like that stigma. She was just good at it. So that's the one time Felissa's impressed me in 15 years. So good job.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, because I keep hearing about Death House, and since you're both involved in it, what's the scoop with this project?
Well, it's picture locked. It's ready. It comes out early 2017. It will hit theaters.
Was this a filmmaker you'd worked with? Like, how did you come to it to produce
Harrison Smith is one of my business partners.
Okay.
So he and I have done a few films together over the past 6 years, and Entertainment Factory, they're the company that produced it. Rick Finkelstein and Stephen Chase, I have to say, because they're unbelievable, and I'm on another project with them currently. And he just brought the script to me, and it's unbelievable. Buzz Wallach is one of the producers, too.
Yeah,
Woo,
Buzz.
Buzz, I love you, Buzz.
Buzz of
Dapper
Thirsty fame.
Oh, which you? Yeah, that's right.
What's that?
Just had to bring back to me a second.
Yeah, that was
sorry.
like,
Andrew Cash short.
yeah.
You know what the bottom line is? They were like, we're going to get everybody together. And it was like Kane Hodder, Sid Haig, the gamut, Dee Wallace, Barbara Crampton. I can go down the list. Tiffany Shepis. And it was
Gabrielle Stone?
unbelievable. Gabrielle Stone, Tony Todd, Vernon
vegan
Wells,
actress.
Sean Whelan.
what?
What's that? So many incredible talents. The story is really dynamite because it's original, it's compelling, it's something I have not seen. The trailer debuts at Days of the Dead Louisville come September 2nd, and then it will be out. It's just a really well done film. I'm very fucking impressed with how Harrison wrote and directed. It's different than anything I've seen. So, and everyone in it is really, is terrific. Their performances. So, I'm very excited about it.
Cool. Have you guys worked together before? Not
Never.
including this movie? This
Do you think we should do something together?
We did the Sludge Monster movie.
We did a
It
Sludge
was about a recycling monster.
Of course it is.
From when?
And that never, it never,
come out?
no, it never came out.
Oh,
It's not sad.
I was
It's
9 months pregnant, and we were sisters, right?
I think so. I don't know.
And we were
I don't know,
fighting.
but-
A pregnant Felissa Rose in Sludge Monster.
All of a sudden, I remember we got there and I was like, "What are we fighting?" She's like, "I don't know. I'm uncomfortable." And I was like, "What is that thing?" I was like, "Is that
That's
a
always
trash
fun.
bag monster?" She's like, "I think so." But Felissa, unlike me, is like, "Oh my god, it looks so great, all realistic." And I'm like, "What the fuck is she talking about?"
I mean, look, that is so us. I'm like, that's a terrific creature that you made. And Tiffany's like, it fucking sucks. I hate it. It looks dumb as shit.
I don't know why I'm here.
I don't know why I'm here.
So we did that, and then she was in a Matchmaker short that we did in Arizona,
That was so great.
where she
Sean
got
wrote it
killed
and directed it.
by a hammer and then had gas. It was pretty
Okay,
hilarious.
Sounds on brand.
My role was riveting.
She was hilarious.
Tales
really,
of
really
Halloween,
hilarious.
technically, right?
Yeah.
Tales
in that.
Tales of Halloween.
Yeah, that's cool. And your kids are both in it as well.
Yes.
Thanks to Tiffany. Yep, she called. They need a kid. Where's your kid?
Where's your kid?
The Girash demands more children.
Need a child. And she's like, but do they need? No. But can I come by? No.
Again, I was in the trailer with the background people. I'll never forget watching.
My God.
Well, it was the night you came on set.
Yeah, I came by.
And you did come by.
I did.
I came out, I was like, but I remember seeing like Adam Green, and I've been a huge fan of Adam's, and I've always been really intimidated and nervous to like even meet him. And no, this is true. And he was playing the cop. So I was like watching from afar, and Tiffany's talking to him. And Rob, you were there. We were together
Yeah, I think
on
so.
the John Skip Andrew Cash.
Yes, that's right.
night.
Yeah.
So anyhow, yeah, I always felt like a little insecure and nervous too. Why is everybody laughing?
You were
at me?
dressed as a cat,
Yeah.
and so were you.
I know.
I'm not dressed as a cat.
You were dressed as a cat.
No.
Oh, maybe it was just her.
No,
Asshole. And you were dressed as a squirrel.
It was just
I wasn't even
me.
dressed up. I was there at my kid.
Oh,
that's right.
never mind.
I was the kitty cat,
That's
and
right.
she gave me a lot of shit for it for a long time.
It was hilarious.
No, that was fun.
She's like, "You're back on that set. They need the cat again." Because I've been like 3 seconds.
Oh, yeah, because you're like a through line character that
Yeah,
pops in and
yeah,
out. Yeah, I gotcha.
I was not mad at her about it. It was hilarious because it was like, I'm shooting Tales of Halloween today.
I get so excited just to be on the set.
Yeah,
I
of
would
course.
do, like any background. I'm available.
If anyone needs background talent,
And I still have the
my
kitty
God.
cat outfit.
Hey now.
Hey.
All right, now we're talking.
she
So
came dressed in costume,
I
like
did.
ready to go.
what's this is the hard hitting question, ladies.
Uh-oh.
What's the problem? Like, why aren't there the kind of new Scream Queen? What are they doing wrong? Or
I've
what's
killed
happening?
them.
You've devoured their
She
souls.
scared them.
I mean, it's the only way you stay so youthful looking. Tiff.
Just bathing. Too bad I can't find any virgins.
On this town.
Yeah, not here. These Scream
Not this
Queen
town.
whores. These are whores.
There aren't, let's talk about the Scream Queen thing. You don't feel like you think there's just one little group? And
Well, I mean, like, there's only, maybe it's just the way horror fandom has shifted as well. I don't think that there's what?
I don't think horror fans right now want to embrace a lot that's new. Like, if you look, everything's about retro. Everything's pop culture. Everything's culty.
Yay!
And it's not, good. Well, hooray! But I mean, at least from what I've seen at some of the cons, it's a lot of old school nostalgic stuff. And then, like, the newer stuff there's just not a huge...
Where's 1994 Tiffany?
Well, no, okay.
I'm
no,
looking for 94 Tiffany.
No, I'm not talking about me.
I know.
But so, for instance, I was on a panel at Comic-Con for the movie The Final Girls.
Yep.
And
right.
it was very, very cool to be asked to be a part of it. They won, like, horror chicks, and it was me and Caroline Williams. And that was, like, the big question is, how come this isn't
A thing.
Like, everyone loves that movie that you talk to. They're, like, super excited about it. And I said, because it's not old enough. Like, give it 15 years, and if the fans stick behind it, maybe...
I disagree with that because it was happening in the 80s, and we were rolling with it. And in the 90s, they were rolling with it. And there's nothing to there's no one... Maybe there's like a deep cut, like, kind of indie scene, and I'm just not paying attention enough.
I think, general audiences from back 80s and 90s, the way that they get their horror is totally different from the way audiences nowadays do. Meaning, like, I understand your retro point, because anybody that grew up with it has that affinity for it.
You grew up with it because you had to go Friday night to the movie theater and watch it with a bunch of your horror nerd friends. And then, now you can watch it alone in your house, which is why I think the Sharknado type movies became a big thing, because it was like you all watched it from your own living room, but you watched it together.
Right.
And that was my point to them. I said, maybe if you can create some kind of social thing, like it happens with TV shows now. Like, a TV show could have terrible, terrible ratings, but if they get the fans behind them and they all live tweet it, next thing you know, they're brought back. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it's like because there's a communal thing, like we had when we used to go to the movie theater on Friday night to watch some double feature.
Like an event.
Like an event, yeah.
Whether it's funny or it's,
But there's too
silly.
much shit now. Movies are expensive. If you want to take 4 people in a movie theater, it's $150.
But I think, like, those people that went on Friday nights in our age, they went because that's the movie to see Friday night, but they became lifelong fans. Whereas kids today, I feel like,
Kids today,
here's my old man stick. We'll go and see, did everybody that went to see Unfriended, are they big horror fans now? No, I think that was just that movie for that weekend. And now they're on to the next. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the kids today don't become horror fans just because they go see one horror movie on a Friday night.
Right. I'll take the cultural fandom thing as shifting and not there's not enough. I mean, like, I believe there are a lot of hardworking actresses coming up in the indie scene that are really working hard and trying to find good material to do and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, why Jimmy Peabody that lives in Ohio isn't like, I really love this Scream Queen that's like, that did this movie in the last 10 years.
Do you think it's because they're not getting their hard copy Fangoria every month like they used to, and be able to, or
Femme Fatale,
or Scream Queens Illustrated, like that? If you were a hardcore fan, you got that glory box of sleazy magazine.
I found that glory box recently, and I was like, what is with Julie Strain? What is this?
Michelle Bauer.
Michelle Bauer.
Hey.
Michelle Bauer.
Yep.
Michelle Bauer's still hot. Like, she is. Michelle Bauer's hot.
Yeah. I mean, Linnea, Brinke, and Michelle.
Oh, they're all hot. Like, they're all ridiculous hot. I think beautiful women are beautiful women.
Brink
Let me tell you
hasn't
my Brink
aged
story.
since like 1970.
No. Let me tell you my Brink story, because it got me in so much trouble. It's great. So when I was married at the time that I met Brink, we were at this house party.
Hear that, folks?
And
there was a time.
It was another lifetime. It was another Ryan. It was from the underworld.
It was Ryan Rotten.
Yeah, it was no.
it was before Ryan.
This is right. No, this is Ryan Rotten.
How would I know? I was on the outside.
It was like nascent stage Ryan. Anyways, the great thing is Brink was awesome. I was totally enamored because I was like, it's fucking Brinke Stevens. Come on. So she was really sweet, and we were kind of hanging out at this party, and then my ex is like, okay, we got to go. I'm like, all right, let's go. And she's like, let me go give you my card. Hang on a second. She's like, come on back. So we go into the room. We go into the bedroom. She's going through her purse. And she's like, here's all my info. You should give me a call. We should hang out and we should talk shop. I'm like, great. And then she goes and gives me a kiss on the cheek. But I had kind of turned my head a little too soon. So it landed like half on my lips, and so
Yeah, like
it was kind of like
did.
bright red lipstick, and it was like half on my lips and half on my cheek. So I come walking out with a big grin on my face, and I'm like, I walk up and I'm like, ready to go, and my ex is like, yep. And I'm like, what? And she's like, let's go. And we get in the car, and she's like, so you want to wipe that lipstick off your mouth? And I was like, oh, no. And she was like, I don't know if I like that, Brinke Stevens. And I was like,
Let me ask you a question.
oh, shit.
Would you have slept with her if you had the chance?
Yeah, I want to hear
If
that.
I was
Let's
single
talk
at the
about
time?
that. Yeah.
Well, no. Let's just say like the wife
Yes.
had like. All right, fine.
We already
fine.
know the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah,
If
you
I
were
was-
single.
If I was
would you have
single-
been able to do it, or would you have been so scared? Like,
Oh.
I loved you, Brink.
Come on, Tiff.
I think that's an interesting question because I feel like
Yeah, probably. Yes, if I was
See?
single at the time,
See?
and then Brink was,
And Brink was there with her red lipstick.
Come on.
Hey, it's not a
With
secret
her
that,
red lipstick and
Felissa
her
is married
love.
to the biggest sleepaway camp
That's
fan,
right.
So
That's right.
That's true.
It could
true.
happen, folks.
it is true.
No, Brink's
He was
Brink.
Brink's awesome, and she's a class act. Like Brink has always been
Oh
just
my
super
God.
awesome.
super,
I
super
think
sweet.
she's one of the smartest
I
and
got
sweetest
her
women ever.
a job on a movie.
She's in Death House.
Sorry, it was not
She's
a
in
good
Death
movie.
House.
She is in Death House, but this was
Is she
not a
really?
good movie.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody. Beverly Brown.
Everybody's in it, Ryan.
Michelle Bauer in Death
Everybody.
House.
She is now.
I
Yeah,
called
call
her,
you,
but
shoot her
she
cameo.
Let's go do some additional
But
shooting.
neither is Jewel Shepard. I'm sorry, Jewel. I don't know.
Well, anyway, I did this movie called Brian Loves You, which was not a very good movie, but
was it
George
called?
went and Tony Todd, and it got into Walmart, so a lot of people saw that thing too. It was like in like their Walmart
I
horror
remember
bins.
getting a white mask.
Yeah,
in
they
the
sent out
mail.
these white mask promo things.
Yeah.
It was so bad. But anyway, I was good. Brink was good. And Tony Todd was fine.
I haven't seen Brink in
But
forever.
I was good. Tony was fine.
I honestly, I don't even remember it. But I had recommended Brink to be in it as like, I don't even know what she was, maybe a nurse or something. And she had, like, a part. It was this little tiny SAG movie in Arizona, and she sent me like a massage gift certificate in the mail with this like handwritten note about like how thankful she was, and people don't refer people. And I was like, literally cried. Like, that is the nicest lady.
Wait, you cried? Wait, hang on. You cried? Did you say you cried?
Yeah, for
That's-
people
yeah.
I enjoy being around, I cry.
That's crazy.
Rob, we're off the list.
Guys,
I
You're
know.
with me.
I know. It's all right.
yeah,
That
she's a sweet lady.
She's a beauty. Yeah, she is. She's
But
big soul.
the fandom scream queen thing, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like you're not getting that monthly.
I would have liked to have been at the. I was originally supposed to be there, and I kind of helped put that panel together. And
Brian loves you.
No, Final Girls. The Final Girls.
Oh,
Sorry, we're taking you back to the
like,
Final Girls
wow.
conversation in which you were talking, we're lamenting the days.
you should have been there.
Yeah.
You
was
should have been
good.
there. Someone else
Aren't Mark
moderated
and Josh
it.
great?
They're awesome.
They're amazing.
They're the nicest guys. Like, I was actually very nervous to meet them because I was like, well, one, I really liked Queen of the South. Love Final Girls, the movie. But then I got there and I'm like, I mostly have been a scream queen, not necessarily a final girl. Like, are they going to be like, the jig is up? Yeah. I'm like, but I never
you ever
lied,
been?
Like, they asked.
Have you ever been the final girl?
Yes. Plenty of times. Just not like, I mean, I've made 100-something movies, and it's, I don't know, probably been 50-50, but the ones that everyone talks about are like,
Yeah.
there's a killer.
Yeah.
My ass is hanging out.
Yeah.
But I was nervous of that, but then they were way cool and very, very, very nice guys. And they had a moderator.
Bibbs. Did you see Final Girls?
No.
You should.
Okay.
You should see it. It's great. I got
Is
to see
it?
it. I got to see it with Barbara Crampton.
It's
I was just like,
and she's one of my favorite women. I just have to say that.
And it was she's amazing.
She's in Death House.
She's the
amazing.
star.
Get out of here.
She's
No.
she's the star
Yeah.
of Death. I mean, she and Kane. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well,
Yeah.
Wow.
I think.
Are we going to
that
play
was
a game?
is
Are
she
we playing like
insulting
Truth
me
or Dare?
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Final
Ladies, thank
girl.
you for coming out.
Final
Final
girls.
girls.
Yeah.
Final
Exactly.
girls.
You both came.
Which will be relevant next week as well.
Why are
It's
they?
so
Are
good.
they on it?
I got Josh and Mark. Are gonna
They're
come
really
in.
nice.
Ooh,
Ask
I'll
them
just
about how
say-
awesome I
And
was.
Josh comes from horror history.
He does.
Yes, his dad.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that is
That
crazy.
and his mom was in Switchblade Sisters.
Yes,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I just
kind of.
I was in a meeting with him, and he goes, he brought up Teen Witch, and I was like,
Oh,
what?
yes.
And he goes,
So,
I was in Teen Witch.
That's really funny. Now,
Teen
this
Witch?
had not like Mia and I, because Mia is very much scared of horror films. Although her favorite movie of all time is Misery.
Yeah.
But
Great film.
But we
hardcore.
watch like an 80s film like once a week if we can. And the last one we had watched was Teen Witch. And she was like, I love this movie. Oh my God. And actually me on the other side, I was like, I don't think it holds up. And I was like, let me see what these people are up to. And it was that dude. I was like, oh, I think Teen Witch is great. It's still rocking it. No, it was a lot of fun. And I don't know. You can't deny awesome 80s movies for your kids.
Yeah.
Teen Wolf. Cue it up for her.
I think
She'll
it's
love
too
it.
sexual, isn't it?
There's a little, it gets a little
there's like
sexy
one.
time.
Yeah, like I think we had thought
yeah.
about Teen Witch, and I was like,
I forgot about
More,
that. Sorry.
yeah, dude. Thanks for the heads
lent
up.
it to you. I
So we were
forgot.
showing it to Jack, and we were just like, "Oh shit, they're in the closet. Oh, this is coming. Oh,
Hey,
come
so
on."
wait, look.
Meanwhile, she's like, she literally sits there. She's like, "I'm missing the movie."
Yeah.
yeah, and you know what though?
It's hard
And
to
because of
watch
their
like
their
that.
age, like 11, 12-year-old girls, it's weird because Mia, I showed her Say Anything, and I forgot like their moment in the car.
Oh,
And, like
yeah.
even though you don't really see anything, all of a sudden like John Cusack was her screensaver, and she watched it every night. And then she followed him. This is great. She followed him on Instagram, and she goes, "He's so old now." But it was like I don't think she had processed
Right,
that
right.
he
He
was a
wasn't the
grown
guy.
up. Yeah, that he
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah, just remember him from the movie. Just don't follow him anymore.
So lastly, with your daughter, she doesn't really like horror, but she watches some stuff. But you kind of watch 80s movies with her.
Yeah, we're big 80s movie stuff. I mean, if she wants to watch a horror movie, like she's really wants to see Lights Out, but she's afraid to see it in the theater.
She should watch it with Bianca.
Yeah, she wants to see it at home because I know she's afraid that she'll freak out. She watched Unfriended with your daughter, with Bianca.
Yeah.
Which has a little bit of
A little, that's what she said, a little bit of sexy time. But, she can watch whatever she wants. I mean,
Right.
and even if there's a little sexy whatever in it, usually they're
think
more
it's
like a
good for
little
them.
grossed out by it.
Yeah, because
than-
your kids are totally open to watching
I'm
whatever.
like big pro, like have the conversation, be communicative with your kids, and let them watch film.
Yeah.
Like it's very important. And my kids just love it. I mean, they're all completely like mesmerized. When they watch Friday the 13th, like the original 80s, like, oh my, they light up. It's in their genes, though. My husband
Mine
is
would
such
die.
a, you know, I do think it's in their genes because I watch the way, Daddy, can we tonight? It's like a big thing. It was summer and it was like almost every night there was an 80s, something.
And you just showed them maybe in the last year, Sleepaway Camp,
I did,
right?
last summer.
So,
Yeah.
for both of you, do you show your kids stuff that you've done? And
Mia saw Sharknado.
and that was...
That was it. I mean, actually, we did discuss. I was like, "Oh, we could put on the Scarecrow. That's pretty silly and goofy, and But she doesn't really have an interest. Like, it's not that she thinks what we do is dumb, because I think secretly she thinks it's cool.
Right.
But she's not. Like,
like
yeah, let me go look at all your old crap in the garage that you've been saving for me because one day I'm gonna find it interesting. Like I literally just threw out a big box of old VHS that I was like, one day my children will want to see this. They won't. And then Sean got him out. He's like, someone will want to keep these.
Yeah, good for Sean. Good. Sean, I'm coming over. I'll pick some up.
But I don't know. Maybe one day when she shows like real interest, we'll sit down and watch fucking all of them. I don't care. And we'll laugh because some are hilarious and some are so bad, and then some that I think are actually really good. Like I love The Violent Kind, and I love The Frankenstein Syndrome. There's a lot of my movies that I'm a fan of. Maybe Ryan's not. Whatever.
Are those the two you'd show her if you could?
Pardon?
Are those like the two that you would want to show her of your films?
Actually, I love The Hazing. I think The Hazing's fun. Like, it's because I loved 80s movies so much, like, growing up, that was my, like, 80s movie. You know, because Rolf Konevsky is just like an 80s dude. You know, he's an 80s director. It's like, so if you watch, like, if you like Night of the Demons, you'll like The Hazing. Because it's kind of, it's love letter to that and Hell House, you know?
Yeah.
Well, great.
Cool.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for this kind of smorgasbord. Potluck is a potluck.
Everyone at home, good luck deciphering whatever you just heard. But I think it was fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. All right. Well, signing off. Thanks for coming on.
See you next week.